A Starbucks barista just did the impossible. She refused an order from President Trump, and what happened next left the entire cafe speechless. Doors swung open, and in walked President Donald Trump. The cafe fell into a hush, a ripple of surprise running through the customers who had been lost in their morning routines. It wasn't every day that a sitting president, or even a high-profile public figure, decided to visit a local Starbucks. Heads turned, whispers spread like wildfire, and the atmosphere shifted instantly. People instinctively reached for their phones, ready to capture a moment that was shaping up to be historic. Behind the counter, Sarah, a barista who had been working at this Starbucks for 2 years, noticed the tension immediately. She had served countless customers, from regulars with quirky orders to hurried office workers, but there was something different about President Trump. He didn't approach casually or politely. He strode up to the counter with a sense of entitlement, scanning the menu like he expected it to bend to his wishes. As he spoke, it became clear he wasn't just here for a normal coffee. President Trump began demanding a very specific, complicated order. His voice carried across the cafe as he loudly complained about the menu, emphasizing what he didn't like and what he expected. Customers exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether the situation would escalate. Then came the moment no one anticipated. Sarah, maintaining her composure, calmly shook her head and looked President Trump in the eye. "I'm sorry, sir. I can't fulfill that request today," she said. The entire cafe froze. The sound of chatter died down. Phones were paused mid-recording, and even the store manager looked momentarily speechless. Saying no to a celebrity is one thing, but saying no to President Trump? That was something completely different. For a tense few seconds, it seemed like time itself had stopped as everyone waited to see what would happen next. President Trump's face flushed a deeper shade of red. He was a man accustomed to getting his way, known for demanding attention wherever he went, and being refused, especially by someone so young and seemingly ordinary, was not something he handled lightly. His posture stiffened as he leaned over the counter, trying to assert control over the situation. There was a tension in the air that could be cut with a knife. "You don't understand. I need this just right," President Trump said, waving his hands dramatically. "I always get it exactly this way." His voice carried across the cafe, causing heads to turn. People paused mid-conversation, unsure whether to intervene or continue watching in disbelief. Some discreetly recorded the interaction, sensing that this was not an everyday encounter, it was a showdown, right here in their neighborhood Starbucks. But Sarah didn't flinch. Calm, composed, and professional, she looked President Trump squarely in the eyes and repeated firmly, "I'm sorry, sir. I can't do it. Our store policies don't allow it." The cafe seemed to hold its breath. Every person in the room felt the weight of the moment. Customers exchanged astonished glances, some whispering to each other, others silently hoping that Sarah's courage wouldn't lead to a scene. Even the manager, standing just a few feet away, looked like he was about to intervene, but he hesitated, clearly impressed by her poise. The ordinary coffee shop had suddenly transformed into a dramatic stage, the kind of tension you usually only see in movies. Then, something remarkable happened. Instead of letting the situation spiral into conflict, Sarah smiled politely. She leaned forward slightly and added in a warm, friendly tone, "But I can make you something else delicious. On the house, if you like." That small gesture completely changed the mood. What could have been a tense, awkward standoff became a moment of curiosity and admiration. Customers began whispering excitedly, "Who is this brave barista? How is she standing up to President Trump and staying so calm under pressure?" Phones were now aimed not just to capture potential conflict, but to record the remarkable courage of an ordinary worker standing her ground with dignity and grace. In that instant, Sarah became more than a barista. She became a symbol of quiet strength and professionalism, a reminder that even in the presence of power and authority, confidence and respect can hold their own, and sometimes that's all it takes to change the story entirely. News of the interaction spread through the cafe like wildfire. What began as a simple coffee order had turned into a remarkable display of courage and professionalism, and the customers inside couldn't help but notice. Some people quietly clapped, their appreciation barely audible over the hum of the espresso machines. Others pulled out their phones, capturing the moment, knowing instinctively that this wasn't just another ordinary morning, it was something the world needed to see. Sarah, the barista, remained calm and composed, handling the attention with humility. She had done nothing extraordinary in her own mind. She was simply following the store policies she had been trained to uphold. But to the patrons watching, it felt like a stand against power itself. President Trump, on the other hand, looked momentarily flustered. He was not used to being told no, especially so politely yet firmly. There was a flicker of surprise across his face, and for a brief moment, it seemed as if the cafe had paused around him. After a short, tense silence, President Trump muttered something under his breath, perhaps a complaint or a grumble, and eventually accepted the alternative drink Sarah offered him. The simple exchange, though seemingly small, had diffused what could have been a volatile situation, leaving behind admiration rather than conflict. By now, the cafe was buzzing, not just with the familiar aroma of coffee, but with an energy far more electrifying. Patrons whispered to each other, animatedly discussing what had just happened. They weren't talking about the flavor of the latte or the texture of the muffins. They were talking about courage, about standing up respectfully, and about how a single person could remain composed under pressure and inspire everyone around them. It didn't take long for the story to escape the walls of the Starbucks. Social media caught fire almost immediately. Clips recorded on phones began circulating on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, showing Sarah's calm defiance in the face of authority. Hashtags like Starbucks Hero and the Brave Barista started trending, spreading the story far beyond New York. People all over the country were sharing, commenting, and celebrating her professionalism, making it clear that this was more than a viral moment. It was a lesson in courage, poise, and the quiet power of doing the right thing, even when facing someone as influential as President Trump. In just a few hours, an ordinary morning at a Starbucks had turned into a story the world couldn't stop talking about. A story of respect, resilience, and the courage to stand your ground. Sarah never imagined that a routine morning at Starbucks would make her an internet sensation. For her, it had just been another day on the job, serving coffee, following store policies, and trying to ensure every customer left satisfied. She had never planned on becoming the center of a viral story or attracting national attention. Yet within hours of her interaction with President Trump, the world had noticed. News outlets quickly picked up the story, and Sarah's calm yet firm response became a symbol of courage and professionalism. Headlines praised her poise, calling her a brave barista who stood up to power with dignity. People across the country began sharing the clips and articles, inspired not just by the situation itself, but by the way she handled it. Comments poured in on social media from people expressing admiration for her confidence, her respectfulness, and her ability to stand her ground without escalating tension. Interviews soon followed, giving Sarah a chance to share her perspective. She humbly explained, "I just did what I thought was right. Our policies are there for a reason, and everyone deserves respect." Her words resonated with viewers and readers alike because they weren't about politics, they were about principle. Millions connected with her simple yet powerful message. Being polite, professional, and courageous in difficult moments can make a real difference. What began as a simple coffee order at a busy Starbucks had grown into a story that captured the attention of the world. A young barista named Sarah, simply doing her job, had sparked a conversation far bigger than anyone could have imagined. People everywhere began to reflect on courage, respect, and boundaries. The question on everyone's mind was no longer about coffee, it was about integrity. What would I do if I were in her shoes? Could I stand up and say no, even to someone with immense power and influence? Sarah's bravery reminded everyone that respect and professionalism aren't just ideals, they are actions. In a society where intimidation, fame, and authority often overshadow ordinary people, her story became a beacon of what it means to uphold your principles. Standing firm, even politely, can shift dynamics and inspire others. It demonstrated that power does not always come from titles or wealth. Sometimes it comes from quiet strength and the courage to act with integrity in a difficult situation. The ripple effect of Sarah's actions went beyond her local cafe. Social media was flooded with people discussing her courage, sharing their own experiences, and celebrating moments when they, too, had managed to stand their ground. Teachers used her story as an example of professionalism. Workplaces highlighted it in training sessions, and ordinary viewers were inspired to approach conflicts with calm assertiveness. What seemed like a small act, a refusal to bend rules, turned into a global lesson about character. For Sarah herself, life eventually returned to normal. She continued her work behind the Starbucks counter, making drinks and greeting customers with her usual warmth. Yet something had changed. She carried with her a quiet sense of empowerment, knowing that her actions had made an impact far beyond the cafe walls. Her story inspired countless others to stand firm, to respect boundaries, and to believe that doing the right thing, no matter the pressure, matters. The moral of Sarah's story is simple, yet powerful. Sometimes saying no politely can speak louder than 1,000 words. It shows courage, professionalism, and respect, and it can resonate far beyond the moment. Ordinary people, armed with integrity and calm confidence, have the ability to influence the world in extraordinary ways. Sarah's stand reminds us all that the right choice is often the most powerful choice, and that the world notices when we act with courage. Starbucks also publicly praised Sarah for her actions. The company highlighted her as an example of how employees can handle challenging situations with grace and integrity. Corporate statements emphasize that empowering workers to uphold store policies is not just about rules. It's about fostering respect, fairness, and professionalism. Sarah's story became more than a viral moment. It became a teaching point for workplaces everywhere, showing that assertiveness and calm confidence are invaluable, even under pressure. The most surprising and heartwarming part of the story came when Sarah received a personal note from the Starbucks corporate office. It thanked her for handling the situation with exceptional professionalism. That note was proof that doing the right thing, even when facing someone with power and influence, does not go unnoticed. For Sarah, it was a quiet victory, a validation that courage and respect go hand in hand. Her story reminded everyone watching that sometimes small acts of integrity can create a ripple effect far bigger than anyone could anticipate and inspire countless others along the way.